Beginning?
Not the very beginning.
Well, you don't start at the end?
No,
Oh, you start at the beginning.
I think we're gonna start
Well, where's Cindy? I mean,
when you.
She'll
are we gonna
come.
wait on Cindy?
No, she'll come. Just get
How do
going.
you know?
It's 11 o'clock already.
So,
Kent has a plane to meet.
5 minutes, it's gonna be over with.
Just get going.
Where'd you?
Just listen to Kent.
What?
Listen to Kent. It's the only person you've got to listen to. It's Kent. She's probably with Bridget.
I think we'd like to know where you were living,
You like to know what?
where you were living, where Grandma was,
I was
all
li-
that, all that.
I was living at home.
Is he gonna be difficult, Grandma?
Mark, now you be nice.
Craig isn't here.
We'll get going here in a couple minutes.
Hmm?
We'll get going in a couple minutes.
Yeah.
I'm just getting you prepped.
Craig's running the troops.
I'm getting
Is
you.
Cindy coming or?
Yes, yeah, she's coming.
You be sure you bring your airplane days in Omaha. That's a factor. When you worked at the airplane plant,
That's a what?
something to say. That's part of your life.
Okay,
So,
okay. December 7th, 1941. A date that the President of the United States told the American people that would live in infamy. On that date, the lives of every man, woman, and child in the United States changed almost immediately. There was everything went for the war effort, everything. I mean, hotels went. If the army wanted hotels, we wasn't ready for this war. We didn't have barracks for the soldiers, and they put them up in hotels and wherever. And that includes there was a shortage of everything. Gasoline was rationed, and automobiles. The speed limit of automobiles at that time was 35 miles an hour, and it closed. The men went. They lined up at the draft board offices to go in. They wanted to help whip Japan when they did this, and
where were you
I
at
was,
the time?
and when Japan attacked, many people in the United States didn't know where Pearl Harbor was. They never heard of it. And they didn't know the significance of Pearl Harbor. And the United States wasn't ready for the war. Their airplanes. That was our air base and naval base, and the whole thing was there. It was wingtip together, lined up like soldiers, like boy, and them planes come in and they took the whole roll. And the attack lasted about 3 hours. Is how long that attacked, and that was it started about 7 o'clock in the morning, Sunday morning, and where we lived, we didn't hear about it until 1 or 2 o'clock in the afternoon. And
How old were you?
I was in high school then. I remember we was talking about the war one day in this class, and whether Germany could take the world like they wanted to. One student says to the teacher, says, how can Germany do that when they can't even get across the English Channel? Well, I was a senior in high school when that started, and then I went to different places. I worked on the farm, and I helped my uncle shuck corn, and then everybody went to the defense plants. I was one of them. When you went into the defense plants, they checked you at the gate. People.
For us that don't know, what's the
This
defense
was Omaha.
plan?
This was in Omaha, and they checked it at the gate. And if you had only one car, I mean, you was the only one in that car, you got reported. And they saw to it to save on gas. They reported that you had to have 2 and 3 in that car.
Oh wow.
Or yeah, oh yeah, it was. And there, so it says. Now this is the barber in Osceola. He was on the racing board, and boy, and if you didn't get a haircut there, he didn't. So the story goes.
Yeah.
Well, anyway, I did that, and then I wanted to enlist into the Air Force. I was working on airplanes, and I wanted to work on them. And they wanted me to keep working there
You and your dad.
at the they call it the bomber plant.
Oh.
And that bomber plant just got started. They poured their first cement there, and they had acres of cement to pour. Oh.
So that goes back to America not being ready. Then,
Yeah,
after the war,
sure.
we didn't have any infrastructure.
Nothing. Absolutely.
So you were already working on the on the
See,
airplanes.
he went to school.
Yeah.
Four.
Yeah, I went
You
to
didn't say that.
an aircraft school before
Oh,
that.
okay.
And
So you graduated from high school
41,
41.
and the war, and Japan attacked in 41.
Okay.
In
How long after you graduated high school did you enlist?
this is what I'm getting at.
Okay.
This is what I was doing, and I went to this aircraft, and
Fry.
they didn't want me to quit. Well, I wanted to enlist. Oh, my parents, you don't dare to enlist. You're gonna wait till they call. Well, luckily I got in to the Air Force. When I say the life change of every man, woman, child, before that, the women didn't work in the outside of a few of the nurses and a few stenographers. That was it. The men did the job. And then when they went, then the women took over. Well, they had to. And then we built these machines, and how we could catch up with the other countries. They took these like General Motors and Ford and all them. They took the engineers of those companies, and they worked for the government, and they helped build the airplanes and stuff. They worked there, and
It was all hands on deck. It was all hands on deck. Everyone was being pulled into
you
the.
didn't have no choice.
Yeah.
You bet. And the war went on, and I was with the largest group to ever leave Polk County. And now, when we left, and so many at that time, never been further than Columbus.
What year? What
Where were you
month?
going?
What?
Where were you heading?
Well, you got me, and we got on. We didn't know. They didn't tell you.
What month was this?
This was in December
December of
41.
41.
Wow.
Yeah, and 42.
42.
43.
Okay.
43.
Okay.
That's when it was. See, I worked at the defense plant for a year before. Then I went into then we left and we went to Fort Dodge, Iowa. And we went to Fort Dodge, we got sworn in. We went to Fort Crook, Nebraska. There we got sworn in, got Army clothes. And they shipped us to Fort Dodge. And in Fort Dodge, we got split up. They sent you there, and only one went the same way I did. And that was the guy that run Burns Cafe in Shelby. And then they put us in the wintertime now, they put us on a train car.
Mm-hmm.
And we didn't know where we was going to get on that train car. And it was cold. They had an old train car. And they had a pot-belly stove in each car. That's how old it was.
Wow.
Yeah, and we went to Des Moines,
Yeah.
Des Moines Highway. And we got on Des Moines, and we switched over to remember, I was the same age you people. And we didn't know what was going on.
Never been
And,
past.
and our friends, and then they never got any further than Columbus, Nebraska, with their parents to buy groceries and back home.
Yeah.
That's as far as they went. So here
Well,
we
some they
were.
had to push on the train, didn't they? They didn't want to go.
Yeah, one day,
So they
well,
had to push them
yeah.
on.
I think that went on more than once. And then we went on a pretty nice train. We went to Chicago. Oh, nice train, nice. And we got into Chicago, there was a blizzard. Heavy blizzard. But that didn't stop the trains.
This is
And
still
then we
December
had
of 43.
43. And then we, on this, we had a layover in there, and then we got on a train, and we left Chicago in a blizzard, headed south. We didn't have no idea where we was going. So we went south all day and all night that night and all the next day. And we stopped in the middle of Mississippi for water for the train. And the colored kids there in that community, they knew when the train was coming in. They'd come out there and they'd dance and jig around, and the soldiers would throw them a nickel or a quarter, and then they'd fight over it. And so we went, and we didn't know where we was going. We were going south, kept it going south.
Yeah.
And I got at 6 o'clock Saturday evening, we pulled in, we come to a stop. We got out, and we was headed up, we went in, we stayed at the finest hotels in Miami Beach.
Wow.
Well, no barracks, no nothing, we wasn't ready for it.
Yeah.
And that's where we stayed, that's where we lived. Those was our headquarters. Next morning, Sunday morning, we got up, and all the ocean waves hitting the beach. We was right there where it did that. Palm trees outside, and they said Catholic Mass out there. First time ever attended Mass outside. And then the next morning, all hell broke loose. Boy, they lined us up and they taught us to be soldiers. Oh boy, when they told you to do something, you didn't ask why, where's the answer, where's the reason, why, what for, how's come. You did it and you didn't ask no questions.
Was this your boot camp?
Well, you call it
A
boot
form
camp.
of it?
Yes,
Yeah.
yeah, that was boot camp.
This was your prep. This was your
Yes, it was. That's what you call it. And some of those soldiers, they couldn't take it. They cried. They actually cried because those sergeants were so mean. But the reason they were mean, they wanted you to pound it into you that when they said something, they meant it. You did it. You didn't ask questions. And then I don't know. I was one of the early ones to leave there. Didn't want to leave. Lived in fancy hotels and on the Miami Beach, my gosh, and the palm trees and the ocean waves, boy. As we went on.
What are you thinking through all this?
What?
What are you thinking through all this?
I didn't.
You never left Polk County,
Yeah, right.
and now you've been to Chicago,
Yeah.
the South, and now Miami
Well, we
Beach.
didn't know what was going on. We didn't know. We were just like a bunch of cattle. You went where they told you.
And you knew eventually
You didn't ask questions.
But you knew eventually you were going overseas.
Well, that's what we
You
was
knew
in,
that-
that's what we was in the army for.
Well, yeah, but you knew the end result was you were going
Well,
somewhere.
sure, I wouldn't have been in the
did
army.
did you know Pacific or Europe? at that point?
Oh, no.
You didn't know
We,
that?
we went cross country from Miami Beach. We went across country, went in the winter then, yet still. We ended up in Columbus, Ohio. And then that's when I found out I was in the Air Force. We was there for some schooling. We was there maybe 13 weeks. We was there from schooling. Oh, I loved Columbus. Oh, the people were friendly there. And
Was that your final?
no.
You still have more
no.
training after that?
No, and then we went to, we went there about 13 weeks. Then we went across country again. Across country, cattywampus. We ended up in Oklahoma City, Tinker Air Force Base. And there we learned how to start airplanes and how to stop them and run them and read the dials. Oh, you get into a dial of an airplane, my goodness gracious, you think the dials on your car, there's a lot of them now. Boy, they're just full of those dials, and you learned to read them.
Yeah.
And started them, and we were there until December. And then, well, we had
So
an
this
idea
has
was
been
gonna-
an entire year. So this was December
no,
of
no,
44.
No, this wasn't entirely. Well, yeah, pretty
Yeah,
close.
You started in
Yeah,
in
yeah,
Iowa
but
December
you're
40,
right, you're
December
right.
43,
It was.
and you made all those treks, and you finally made it to Oklahoma City in December of
Yeah.
44.
Yeah,
Yeah. Okay.
and we left, and we didn't know where we was going. And they loaded a bunch of us on. Then I was the only one that I knew from the original gang that left Shelby. I was the only one.
Wow.
And you get used to that in the Army. And
Did you ride home
then we,
any, or did your mom and dad
well,
know?
yeah, we did. It was so busy that,
Well, they couldn't tell a lot of stuff too.
well, that was no, we didn't dare. We was told that too. Well, anyway, they loaded us on a truck one time and took us to a train depot. We thought it was coming, some of us, and they put us on this train. Then we went cattywampus. We went west and a little bit south.
Mm-hmm.
Wintertime, cold. And I was on guard duty one night, and all at once in the middle of the country where we were, that train come to a screeching halt. It threw me from one side to the other, and we didn't know why it stopped. But then they went again. We didn't know why. And the train comes to such a stop that the wheels was flat on the train car, and we couldn't. We never got any. And we pulled into Ogden, Utah then, and we stayed there for a day, just on that train. And we wondered what they was changing wheels on that train.
Yeah.
And we went again. And then we pulled into, it was close to San Francisco. It was close to San Francisco, between two small towns, Antioch and Pittsburgh. Oh, size of York, more or less.
Mm-hmm.
Smaller probably. And we had some quick training there before overseas. Quick training.
Wow.
13 days, I think, is about what it was. Lectures. And I remember one of the things they said, now when you get over, that's when we found out we was going to Japan.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to face the Japanese. He says, you do not take a Japanese for prisoners. You shoot them. They're going to shoot you, or you shoot them, and it costs too much to feed them.
Wow.
You're going to shoot them. And so, and we was out on the drill field too. We got some of that. And one day they took us, they took us out on this drill field. And there was a big wall as long as this room or a little longer. A wall, just straight up, and a little higher than the ceiling. and there was ropes over that wall, going both ways.
Mm-hmm.
2-inch rope tied in knots. Now climb over that wall. Well, what's that got to do with killing the Japs? So we climbed it. No trouble. We climb a rope. Of course, off the farm,
Yeah.
that was nothing. And then about 3 days later, they took us out there again. Same wall, same place, same rope. And this time with our barracks bag full, all your belongings. Climb that wall with your barracks bag. Well, that was a little harder, but then we found out that when the guy beside you stepped on the rope, you sat on it too, or else you'd go like this, and you went over the wall.
Yeah.
But we didn't know why he was doing that. What? But anyway, they put us on trucks one day, loaded us up on trucks, and we went west, not too far, and we went into San Francisco. Why, by the way, while we was in Antioch, me and two friends of mine, we went into San Francisco for the night. We couldn't find no place to stay overnight, but we got a night off. But we saw that much of San Francisco. Then we went, and then when this bus took us in there were thousands of other soldiers there. And
You didn't even know they were there?
What?
Did you not even know they were there?
No, we didn't know where was, but
Yeah.
they come from all over.
Yeah.
And they were there too, and there was a big ship there, among other things. And of course, they're going overseas on that ship.
Mm-hmm.
And then they had a band there. And that band, every time Air Corps, somebody in the Air Corps group would get up, that band would play the Air Corps song. And then they play the infantry and a few sailors on there. And they play Anchors Away. And oh boy, we got a send off, my gosh sakes. And the ship took off. It's USS President Grant. It was an old luxury liner that was used in peacetime. And we got outside of, so the story goes, that's the roughest waters in the Pacific. They told us that.
Where-
Maybe it was true.
Did you know where you were going? Did they tell
Oh,
you
no,
your final
heavens
destination?
no.
Confidential.
Heavens no, we didn't know.
That was a confidential.
We knew we was gonna fight Japan.
But you didn't know if you were going to Japan
No.
or the South
No,
Pacific.
right.
You didn't know.
We did not know.
Did they?
We was going south, that's all I know.
Did they keep you updated with the current happenings, like the different battles over there, and how if the
We
United
never-
States was winning,
we never
you never
had-
knew
no,
anything?
No, you didn't know nothing.
Yeah.
Because when did you get on that boat? When did you get on the boat and start heading west? Do you remember the month
No, they headed south
or south?
on the boat. Well, let's see, 40, that would have been in December, January of 43. 44, I mean,
45.
43. 44.
44.
44.
Okay.
It'd been 44.
Okay.
And we went south. And we went by, we saw on the Golden Gate Bridge, and we saw, and they had in the land there, Golden Gate, and then we went out, and then all we saw was water. That's all we saw was water, south, and day and night. But when we first got on that water, going south, they said those were the roughest waters in the Pacific, if you can believe it.
Yeah.
Well, some of them got seasick. Oh, did they get seasick? I mean, for 3 and 4 days they couldn't eat. Their friends would bring them food down, they'd vomit it up, and it was. And I often wondered, with those guys, when they got seasick, what would happen if the ship would stop right now? Would they be cured, or would they still take a few
Yeah.
hours to get over it?
Yeah.
I often wondered that.
Yeah.
Well, anyway, that's coming later. Well, anyway, we went on south.
You never got seasick?
I didn't get seasick.
Now, when you were going south,
Yeah.
talk about what you had to do, the ship. Because you've told me this before. The path you had to take, zigzagging.
Well, yeah, oh yeah, you went to, well, when we got out away from the land, away from the, and then we'd go zigzag. Enemy ships couldn't follow that way. If they followed the zigzag, they didn't know where they was ending up at. And we got out a long ways in the ocean, and I saw my first flying fish. Oh, the fish that come out of the water, and about this high in the water, and they from here across that room, they do, yeah.
Wow.
And we'd see them flying fish. Well, and we went further and further, and then when we then when you was on that ship, you better not. If you was on deck at night, you better not have a cigarette in your mouth, or you better lit cigarette, or you better not have a flashlight lit. Enemy ships could see that, and that was for protect us from the enemies.
Wow.
See, and so we went on, and then when we crossed the equator, we noticed that we lost sight of the Big Dipper. We didn't see the Big Dipper anymore. And then we got across the equator. Then we saw the Southern Cross. That's their mark in the sky. South of the equator is the Southern Cross, and that showed up well brighter than the Big Dipper.
Wow.
Yeah, it did, and we kept it going, day and night, and we kept it going, and for 13 days and 13 nights, we was on that water,
Wow.
going south.
2 weeks.
Almost.
And at what point did you know where your destination was? When you landed?
They never did tell us.
So when you docked,
We didn't dock. That's what I'm getting at. Before we got, and all at once at 4 o'clock in the morning, my goodness gracious, that ship come to a screeching halt. Boy, it shook the whole, everybody out of their bed. I mean, there we sat. What happened? Of course, loudspeakers, they wouldn't tell you nothing. And what we found out later, that it hit a coral reef.
Oh, wow.
Underwater. See that, and then we found out that's all that soil is down there is coral. And we hit that coral reef, and there we sat. So the story goes. I don't believe it, but so the story goes. That Tokyo rose more than enough. Get those men off that ship right away. We're coming in, and we know where you're at, and we're gonna sink the whole bunch. Well, but so we sat there. And then at daylight, then another ship come besides us. And that's, they transferred us from where we were to that ship. And that's when I found out why we had to learn to climb that rope up at Camp Stoneman. We used that rope to get off that ship, we used it to get on the other one. That's why. And maybe, I don't know how far it was, 30, 40 miles there, we could look like land. And it was land. Then they took us in that land. They gave us all a machete. You know what a machete is?
Big old.
Big corn knife.
Yeah.
And we got in there, and there's your home. Clean in the jungle. That was jungle.
Wow.
And then when we found out we was in New Guinea. New Guinea, the second largest island in the world. I think it's Greenland is the first. I think that. And so I looked at, after I got home, I looked up the history of coral in the encyclopedia.
Mm-hmm.
And I found that coral, at the beginning of time, grew at the rate of 2 inches a year underwater. Once it come out of water, it would die. And that's what you had, coral. Well, and we got in this coral there, and
When did
So they transfer
New
you ships
Guinea-
because of the hitting the coral.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, and
when did you make landfall? Do you remember?
well, that was it. That was it.
Month. Do you remember the month?
Well,
Had to have
I
been still
suppose-
January.
I suppose January.
January.
And then and we was on New Guinea. Well, New Guinea, but when I say not too far from Australia, it must have been a couple of 300-400 miles. I don't know. But then found out. Then when they got from New Guinea, or yeah. When the war broke out, Japan was on the doorsteps of Australia. And oh, them people in Australia, they were afraid of, I mean, everybody in Australia defending Australia, everybody either lost a son, son-in-law, a cousin, a relative of some kind. They weren't happy people. It took 6 months to free what did I say the name of that boat? Reno, help me.
Oh, Guadalcanal.
Guadalcanal. It was Guadalcanal. And we that's where Japan was making their attack on Australia. And 6 months we cleaned out. I wasn't there. That was before I got there. And it was sad. Then we settled in New Guinea and to build an airstrip. There was already parts of one there already, and we used to finish every day at noon. An old beat up airplane would fly over. It's Japanese. He loudspeaker. He talked to us down. We had our guns on him, and he talked to us. I go, my goodness, what a wonderful job you're doing on that airstrip. Just keep up the good job. Because when we take over this island in the back, we're sure going to use it. And it's out every day.
Really?
Yeah. And we let
Japanese
him,
and it's speaking in English.
oh, yeah. And we let him go. He wasn't doing no damage. Old beat up airplane. What the heck? Well, this airstrip was just about done. One time he come over and he dropped a bomb right in the middle of that. Oh, gee whiz. And,
And you were there for that.
well, yeah.
Oh my gosh.
And, well,
Did anyone get hurt?
no,
They just-
I don't think so.
Yeah.
And so we
Was that his last time to fly over that airstrip?
we
took care of
shot him down.
Yeah.
Was that the one you called Wash Machine Charlie?
Yeah, I said wash machine.
No, you didn't. I didn't hear it.
No, I didn't hear it.
That was,
We called him
was-
wash machine Charlie because that old beat up airplane sounded like a wash machine. See, we call him wash machine Charlie.
And he flew over every
How-
day, taunting you.
Yeah, how low did he fly?
Well, he was up there. It wasn't too high.
Yeah.
We let him go. I mean,
But you could hear him on like a megaphone, or
we had a loudspeaker,
yeah.
and he talked to us down there. Spoke English. And,
How were your quarters in New Guinea? Your-
what quarters?
okay, well, where did you sleep? Where did you eat?
No, this was on the southern point of New Guinea, and the whole New Guinea wasn't taken over by the Americans then yet, and airplanes would fly over at night. The enemy would fly over us and drop bombs, and they do that for two reasons. First, you couldn't find the airplane to shoot them down, and number two, it kept you awake at night. You couldn't work. They didn't.
Yeah.
And they kept you, and so we got a little bit acquainted, and then we moved north.
Did they have buildings for you
got
guys?
in,
to
we
stay
stayed
in?
in New Guinea and all. What?
Yeah, did you have barracks?
Oh, Oh,
So where did you sleep? Where
on the ground.
On the ground. Okay.
In a tent?
And in tents, yeah, we had tents.
In the jungle.
Oh, that's all jungle.
Yeah.
That was all jungle.
Wasn't a nice building with a nice
No,
shower and outhouse.
No.
And your gear? How heavy was your gear?
Oh, you could carry it all in a duffel bag.
Okay.
Yeah, you could.
Like 50, 60 pounds?
Well, I suppose. Yeah, you could carry it. See, we learned that back at Camp Stone when we had those ropes. We had our duffel bag with us. That's why we learned that.
Did you do a lot of marching, walking?
Oh, no.
No.
We was on those, our jobs was on those there. One boy wrote home to his mother and says, "Don't worry about me." She says, "If those guns and shells, they don't have my name on it, I'm all right." Well, she wrote back and says, "Son, I'm not worried about the ones that got your name on it or not. I'm worried about the one that says to whom it may concern."
Yeah.
That's what she wrote back to him.
So the planes you would work on, what kind of planes were
They were bombers.
Bombers.
Yeah.
So
they were
the
bombers.
B-17, the
Then
Fortress?
Then as the war went along, we kept making advances. We'd move up north. We'd move with the advancement, and some of those islands we bypassed, and we just left them. Smaller than Polk County, Nebraska. Smaller than that, we bypassed them. And then others we had to take with guns and those. See, they were getting ready for this war 2 and 3 years before it started, and they had those islands of furnished with food and clothing, everything there. Well, we cut them off. There they sat by themselves. And they
So you didn't have to take the island as long as you cut the supplies.
What?
So you didn't have to take the island as long as you cut the supplies. They could leave the island.
No, we just left the islands
That's
there.
what I'm saying. You could leave it as long as you prevented
Oh, the supplies
from coming in.
Oh, they were cut off.
Yeah.
They kept on moving, and then they had them islands or in those islands, and we was on some of. We was on Biak Island, and they had it fortified with. I don't know.
In caves, you said.
Well, they had caves, and then they had the ammunition in those caves, bombs and stuff inside there. And if you step just right, the whole thing. But we stayed out of them. Well, we didn't stop. Then we'd go to the next island, which was already taken, and we went on to the next one, and we kept moving up north. And we got up on the other side of the equator, and we'd get in those airplanes at night, in the daytime. 12 o'clock noon. 12 o'clock noon. Tokyo Rose come on the radio. And then we listen to Tokyo Rose. She'd start out, music right off the bat. "Boy, don't that music sound good?" She'd say that still. "And your girlfriend can dance to that. Say, by the way, where is your girlfriend tonight?" "Oh, I know," she says. "She's out dancing with some that didn't make to the service. She's having a good time. Right now she's in bed sleeping. Well, you guys have a good time, because when we get done with you, we're coming in and we're gonna." Well, that's the way it went on. And
It's taunting you.
Taunting you.
She would taunt you.
Oh yeah, you bet. She knew we was listening.
Uh-huh.
No, you didn't fool her. And there were some bad battles. Some of those islands were, they weren't as big as Polk County. They were small islands, but boy, they had their airstrips there, and they were all fortified. The big ones were like Iwo Jima and we was up pretty close to the front, getting up further north, In those islands on New Guinea, it would rain every day. Yeah, it would. And it was so hot on those islands that rainwater was warm. And you didn't go in out of the rain. You stayed out in the rain and worked. Because the first place, the rainwater was warm, and the second place, no, there was no lightning. Never no lightning. So you stayed out. And after it quit raining, half an hour, it was dry, as hot as it was, it dried your clothes. See, and we was working ourselves up there. And one day, there was 5 of us working together on these planes. And one day a sergeant comes along and says, "Just get ready. 2 of you are going to Australia tomorrow to pick up supplies."
Hey, Mark, and the plane that you were working on was a B-25, is that correct?
Most of them, we worked on a lot of cargo planes too. Yeah, they had a lot of cargo planes. No fighters. No fighters. The fighters was ahead of us yet. And the sergeant says, you're going to Australia tomorrow and pick up supplies. Well, I wasn't one of the 5. 2 of them was. They went to Australia, and the 2 that they took were party boys. They partied from the time they got off that plane till they stayed one day, and then they come home. All night they partied, and then they come home. Well, next day, here comes a sergeant. 2 of you going to Australia tomorrow. We need supplies. Got to go get them. And I wasn't one of the 2. Well, the other 2 went, and they had a good time. We asked them. They got back. Where's your supplies? I see no supplies. Oh, I don't know. Was we supposed to get supplies? Well, anyway, next day, sergeant comes. 2 of you going to Australia. And I was one of the 2. Friend of mine. And we got on the plane. And now what are we going to do in Australia? My God, we hadn't seen a filling station for 2 years. My God, we know nothing.
Yeah.
Civilians? Do they still talk like we do? we didn't know.
Yeah.
So by golly, I decided, by golly, I'm going to get a haircut. I'm going to sit in a barber's chair and get a haircut. Oh, we got haircuts over there. About that hot, they cut everything off. They weren't barbers.
Well, they
Well,
cut each other's hair, didn't they?
And some of that, they didn't have the clippers to do it. And they did. And I thought, by golly, while I'm in that barber's chair, why don't I get a shave too? Wasn't old enough to shave. My gosh, say what? I didn't even know what a razor was. I'm going to get a shave. So we went to Australia, got all, oh, the weather was beautiful when we got there. And it took us several hours to get there.
What city?
Townsville.
Okay.
And we got in the barber's chair. And he says, shave. And the barber had the nerve to ask me, "You want a close shave?" And then that night, my friend and I, we went to a vaudeville show. Oh, it was a nice show. Then almost a full house, not quite. And the guys told jokes and stuff. But the laughter was very, very weak. See, the Japs killed so many of their relatives and friends that they weren't in the mood to laugh.
Mm-hmm.
And, we saw the show, and they come out after the show, and we got out. It was dark, naturally, and they had dim outs as far as far as Australia was from the front, they still had dim outs. They didn't trust the Japs.
What's a dim out? What's a dim out?
Oh, that's when they just got barely lights on, just enough so you could barely see. They had them here in the States, too. And especially when the war first started. Oh, they had them right in clear in the middle of the United States. They had them in Omaha.
Really?
Oh, yeah. You bet they did. And they had dim out. We could see across the street, but that was about it. And my friend and I, we was walking down the street afterwards, and all at once I heard a rumble in the distance. And gee, I looked at him, and he looked at me, and my gosh sakes, what's going on? And in a matter of seconds, that rumble was on top of us. It was making noise, and all at once the lights come on, and people were hollering, and they were screaming, and my gosh, what's going on? And I heard somebody say, "God save the Queen, God save the Queen." And they were hollering. I heard one say, "The war's over." And here I was in Australia when the war ended. Townsville, Australia.
Wow.
Yeah. And then, well, and
So you had.
And then about a month or two later, see, they sent you home by numbers. If you had a high number, you got to go home early. I had a low number. But anyway,
From Australia, where you went back to New Guinea.
no,
You finished
no,
your
we was
business
beyond New Guinea. By that time, the
Okay.
time as we moved north, we was on Biak Island.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, and
But after your time in Australia, when you heard the war was over, you finished,
oh yeah,
you
I
finished
was
your
in
business.
Townsville then.
You finished your business, and then you went back up to Biak Island.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, and
To await your departure.
no. I had a low number, so I had to wait my turn.
That's not, but you went back up to that island to
Yeah,
wait
oh,
for
yeah,
your number to
yeah.
be called. You knew
No.
you were going home.
But
Oh
when did
yeah,
you go to
someday.
Japan?
We knew
Someday,
someday.
someday.
Yeah, and they was going to send us home, my group or me home, from Tokyo. Oh, I didn't like Tokyo. Yes, we went into Tokyo. Tokyo and Yokohama are pretty close together, and we went into Yokohama. Our ship did. And when we went into Yokohama, our ship, we still had minesweepers on that ship over there, just for protection. And
What were you thinking going to Japan?
I was supposed we hit a mine. My God, they was all over the Pacific, those mines, and that's another story. Remind me, I'll tell you the story on that. But anyway,
Were you nervous going to Japan, even though the war was over?
I didn't like Japan. Oh, I hated Japan. I thought I'd be going home in a day or two.
But you had to go to Japan first.
Yeah, well, I wanted to go home right away after Japan, but hell, they made me wait in Japan. Gee, when Christmas, I didn't like the weather. It was cold. I didn't.
How were the people?
It
Citizens?
was Japanese, all of them.
How did they treat you guys?
Oh, they was treated nice. Oh yeah, the war was over for them too.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, and
So how long were you in Tokyo?
No, I was there for a couple months. I didn't like it, boy. And so one morning, they got us out of bed. Some of us, they got us out of bed, put us on trucks, duffel bag. You're going home. We're gonna put the duffel bag on the truck, and we went in that cold winter, and boy, we went in, and we went to an enormous train depot, and airport, air depot. Went to a big one, and there were already thousands of other soldiers there, and we was there. There's thousands of soldiers there. Loudspeaker, and this was still dark yet. They got us out of, God, we left at 4 o'clock in the morning.
Wow.
And they says, now we're gonna call names after a while and you're gonna go home. It was 10 o'clock before they started calling names. And they called names, and they called names. They must have called, it seemed like an hour. I don't think it was, but it seemed like it. Boy, it was a long time. Now that's it. Now we're gonna do this again later on today. And, they told us where to go to get food. We're gonna do this later on. It was 2 o'clock in the afternoon before then they called them again. Same thing, they called name after name after name. Seemed like my name wasn't called. So, that's it for now. But we're gonna do this again. And we waited and we waited and waited. Finally, 10 o'clock at night, they did it again. They called names. They called name after name after name. My name wasn't called. Well, they says, that's it for tonight now. Now we got trucks. They're going to take you back to your sleeping quarters. And then the next ship comes in. And so we got on these trucks, and these trucks was going out the gate. The loudspeaker says, "Hey, we got room for 2 more." My name was one of the 2.
No kidding.
You think that truck would stop? And that was Christmas Eve.
Oh.
I missed the boat home on Christmas Eve.
Oh.
Believe it or not. Yeah. Then 3 days later, trucks took us right to the ship. It was on a,
So of all those soldiers, they
Yeah.
called 2, and you were one of the 2.
Yeah.
You were already on the truck.
and it took us then coming home. It took us just as long to go from Tokyo to San Francisco as it did from San Francisco to New Guinea.
Wow.
Oh, that New Guinea. That was. But anyway, then I was on this ship and took us home. Then we come into San Francisco Bay. 13 days later, we come in at night, and they unloaded us.
So no big
Well,
no party, no celebration.
Oh, they didn't care anymore.
you didn't grab grandma and
He didn't know Grandma. Grandma didn't know him. He was one of the soldier boys that you got to stay away from.
Did you,
So we got all the next morning. We got a fancy breakfast. Boy, they set us down, and
Did they wine and dine you?
I guess
I
we
just
listened
thought
to the
that you
clock.
were that.
And yeah, so we sat down for breakfast.
There's a lot of
And
them.
then-
the 20 o'clock.
And we got waited on. Oh, they treat us like kings. My goodness gracious. And that reminds me, when we was in clear back in Columbus, Ohio, had my first one of the meals there by an army sergeant. He come in and say, "Hi, how are you this morning? And enjoy your food." And we learned one thing there, what the soldiers did. We had a long table like this, only from here to that wall or longer. And if you were sitting at that end of that table, and somebody at this end, and you had potatoes and gravy, or they had potatoes, but no gravy, and the gravy's down here at this end, why, he says, "You guys, would you please pass the gravy?" He says, when they pass that gravy down, and here's a guy over here in the middle, and he wants the gravy too on his potatoes, so he stops it, and he takes gravy out of that and puts it on his potatoes, and gravy pass it on. And that mess sergeant says, if he does that, you dump that gravy right in his lap. That's one of the things we learned. But anyway, back in San Francisco. We went past Alcatraz and all that, and those guys waiting on us, they were friendly. They didn't talk. They kind of smiled at each other. They looked a little bit different, but yet they were clean cut. They looked as friendly as you'd want. And gee, I didn't know who they were. I mean, they were in army clothes. I just took they were. I asked somebody, who are these guys? They're prisoners of war. They are German prisoners of war, and their ship hasn't come to take them home yet. So, and I got on a train, and we headed east for Shelby, Nebraska. Yeah, we went east, and a couple of days later, I got home. And after I got home, I found out that they had prisoners of war in Nebraska here. A big one out of Fort Robinson.
Mm-hmm.
Big one.
Japanese?
No.
German.
Germans.
Okay.
Germans. And oh, they had their own, they had a picnic. Gee, they laughed and joked, and they was playing, they had their own soccer league there, and some of them, when their ships come to take them home, some of them turned around and come right back.
They don't want to go home.
Well, after they got home, they
Yeah.
come back.
Yeah.
And then when I got home, I found out there was one closer to home in Cranbridge than Fort Robinson. It was out of Cranbridge. It was out of Cranbridge. And they worked on farms, and a van would pick them up and take them to the farm. And one evening after work, 3 soldiers missing, three prisoners missing. Oh, gee, Monday Christmas, they blew the fire whistle in Cranbridge, and they locked the doors. There's 3 prisoners loose, boy. And of course, he was out looking for them. They found them. They were just walking back to camp.
Yeah.
And when that war was over, and I remember, it was several months before I got home, after the war, and it took 2 and maybe 3 years at the least. At least some of them. It took 3 years to get back to normal.
Yeah.
Where when the war comes, everybody stopped writing down. In order to build these airplanes and these guns and these tanks, they got the engineers, they got the presidents and vice presidents and the engineers from General Electric and all of them, and they had to go. That's why you couldn't get automobile at all. And it took several years before you could buy an automobile. Yeah.
Getting everyone back in normal civilian life.
No.
Everyone.
Oh yeah, it took a while.
So when did you touch foot home? Do you remember the month?
January
January of 45.
45. Yeah, 3 years.
Yeah.
3 years.
3 years overseas. Or 3 years from the time you...
2 years overseas.
2 years overseas, a year of training.
Now, what about the foxhole thing? I saw that picture of you digging a foxhole. Did you ever spend any time in the foxhole?
Oh, we find place to hide.
Oh,
Oh yeah, and they come, boys.
I thought you lived in them.
They come in. They come in threatening to take the island. They was going to kill everybody on it.
How close did any of the islands you were on, how close was the front lines at its closest point?
Oh, I don't know. I can't tell.
Were you ever threatened
No,
severely?
I didn't think so. I didn't know.
But you
I
probably didn't know
it at the
enough.
time.
Or you didn't, yeah. You
I didn't know it at the time, but boy,
They didn't tell you enough to feel threatened. They probably didn't inform you enough of what
Oh,
was
no,
going
I
on to
didn't
feel
know.
threatened.
no,
Besides washboard Charlie.
Charlie, yeah,
Wash
works
machine.
with Charlie.
Washboard, yeah.
Works with Charlie. Works
But they
with-
used to cut
Yeah, it has.
stuff out of letters, you know, what they thought shouldn't be transported either way.
Oh,
They cut those, sometimes they said it's just like lace, the letter was, cause it
Nothing.
was all, there was nothing there.
Did you have a lot of people around you that went to combat? That were maybe in your group or in another?
Well, everybody was in combat. I don't know what you mean.
Well, that they went to the front lines. That was
Oh,
around
that was more in Germany.
you. Okay.
That was Germany.
Well, there were, but you were more or less with the engineer, you know, the
Yeah.
Well, that's what I'm
repair
saying.
group.
Was there other?
We had to watch out for the bombing and the strafing and stuff.
Okay.
And that's what we had to watch
Okay.
out for. And
See-
there was plenty of it.
Okay. I was just wondering if you saw a bunch of soldiers
No,
go to the
no,
front lines and then
no.
come back.
No, no,
Okay.
no.
When you had to leave from place to place, how much time would they give you?
What?
How much time would they give you when you were told you're
How
going?
much time did they give you to what?
To go to the next
Notice,
island.
To the next island, to the, when you're traveling from city to
Oh,
city,
you
island
never knew.
time.
They didn't tell you.
So you had maybe an hour, maybe 30 minutes notice and you were gone?
Oh, we'd go for an hour. So,
So it's pretty much you're working and then they're telling you in an hour we're leaving and that was it.
well, you usually do when you was going.
But did you have to pack up your tools and stuff, or
Well,
did somebody else do that?
when we moved to another island,
That's
yes.
what we're talking about.
Yeah, when we moved to another island, yes.
Now, how much free time did you have?
Was there free time?
Yeah. None.
I didn't know
Okay.
there was such a thing as free
That answers the question.
No, yeah.
What would he do?
Well,
Sit in the
I mean,
rain?
We called down New Guinea. I was there over a year on New Guinea. Oh my gosh. We called them the natives there hubba hubbas. Well, we didn't know what to call it. They was up in the hills. They come down at night and raid our garbage cans.
were they really?
And then they go up into the mountains again.
Friendly people.
Oh, they couldn't talk. They didn't.
Hubba hubbas.
Hubba hubbas.
Yeah,
Naked.
they were hubba hubbas. Yeah, that's what we called them.
Naked. They're natives.
To a degree.
Aborigines.
Yeah.
So how did you eat then? What kind of food did you have in New Guinea?
What?
What about eating?
Well, army food. Army food.
He had one favorite meal.
Well, I see. Then when I got home, I looked up Australia. Or did I tell you about that?
No.
I looked up Australian encyclopedia. Yeah, I looked it up. Yeah. And then this is what happened. Many years ago, a British navigator from England was sailing the South Pacific. He bumped into Australia. Nothing there. Bare ground. And that's what I told him. And he goes back and tells it to Parliament. Says, I found a big, what he called an island, it was a continent. Told him about this continent he found. Nobody there. Climate's nice. So what Great Britain did then, they sent their prisoners there. And today it's one of the finest continents in the world. You can't deny Australia. Australia, New Zealand, but more Australia. Yeah.
Well, now tell about your food, because I never did hear about your food either. Just that one dish that you talk about.
Well, there's really nothing to say. You want to know about shit on the shingle?
Oh, I know about shit on the shingle.
Do you?
Yeah, it's one of my dad's favorite.
Oh,
What is it?
That's gravy on biscuits.
Really?
that's why he likes biscuits and gravy.
And it also has chipped beef.
Yeah, the chip
Chip
beef.
beef.
Yes,
Yeah.
we have
What?
it.
Have what?
No, I'm sorry. Tell them you bumped into somebody, I don't know if you were in Australia or New Guinea, but they said, don't worry about invading Japan, the war will be over. Something will happen.
Oh, yeah. I was walking across the airstrips on Biak Island one day. Stranger. I never knew him. He stopped me. Out of the blue, complete stranger. Just like somebody on the street out here stopped you. He asked me how long I was over there, overseas, on the islands. Oh, I says 2 years. Well, he says, by golly, you're going to go home pretty soon. Well, I heard that story from the time I landed. It was always propaganda and all that. Yeah, well, that'd be fine. Yeah, he says, you're going to go home. War's going to end. Then he went on. I couldn't ask him to go any further with it. And that's when they dropped the
Yeah.
The bombs?
now, the bomb itself was loaded on a B-36 on the island of Titinian. When that ship left San Francisco, well, it was the airplane, but that bomb left San Francisco to Titinian Island, it went zigzag. So, Japan would never get that. And then the bomb got to Titinian safe and sound. They dropped the bomb and the war ended. You know the story. And then that ship went back home, back to the States. And it didn't go zigzag. And the Japs didn't ignore they ignored the fact that the war was over. And they run into that mine there.
Mm.
And that ship that carried that bomb got sunk going back home.
Wow.
It was in Indianapolis, I believe. The ship
Yeah,
was in
yeah.
Indianapolis.
Oh, I had a lot of let's see, where was that? That was in I think it was the end of the war. Yeah, I think it was the end of the war. I think it was in someplace, Las Vegas. Well, it was the end of the war anyway. We had to learn to pickle those engines of the airplanes. They pickled them. By pickling them, they put oil in the motors and preserve them.
Mm-hmm.
That's what they did, and then parked them. It's going to use them if there's ever another war. Well, forget that. And some of those guys get those bombers and move race them. Gee. And you know, I was always second or third in that race. One day I made them, boy, they're not gonna beat me, I'm gonna, and I got in that plane, and the oil, the fuel mixture, I raised it full blast, and I put the throttle way up ahead, and I could see out of the corner of my eye. The plane was ahead of me, I was gaining, and then I passed them. And I got so far ahead of them, and by God, once I felt it back into that airplane race. Gee, Monday, Chris, that scared.
Where was it? Where
All
was
I
this?
could see the rest of my life paying for that damn airplane. That's all I could.
Where was this?
This was in
Las
Vegas.
Vegas, you said.
yeah,
Okay.
Las Vegas. Yeah.
Pay for a bomber for the rest
Always
of
have
your life.
bugs on his mind.
But that wouldn't.
Yeah.
They probably wouldn't have charged you much.
We'll see.
Give me a deal.
They'd have kept me in jail.
Yeah, that they might have done.
So did you hear about the bombs when you were over in Japan? Did you know anything about the bombs that being dropped or
No.
no? So did you ever believe that? I mean, it was a pretty new thing. So
Well, we knew the war was over.
and that's it.
Yeah.
So you never knew
We
about
was
them
in
when you got
Tokyo.
back.
We were in Tokyo, downtown Tokyo, and I didn't
So
like
much
their-
secrecy.
I didn't like their food, I didn't like.
You were just mad you were there.
Yeah, I
You were
think
just
so.
mad you were there. You didn't care. You wanted
Yeah,
out.
he wanted to go home.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Was
that
it
was
Dan-
the
it
whole
was a
thing.
I was
Dancing
2
apples?
years over there. My
Not in
God.
Japan.
No, but I didn't.
I said you wanted to go home from Japan.
Yeah.
That's why.
Yeah.
What they have you doing in Japan?
What?
What did they have you doing in Japan?
Free.
Existing.
Oh, really? They just give you.
And all those tents, they had everything tents, they were cold. And they were short of supply just like we were
Yeah.
over here. Fuel, stuff, you could only use so much, turn that fuel down and you leave that tent, boy, somebody come behind you, sergeant or somebody, he'd turn it down.
So you basically lived in tents for 2 years.
Yeah. What?
You basically lived in a tent for 2 years on different islands.
Oh, yeah, oh, yeah.
I bet it felt nice when you got home and got into bed.
We weren't cold because we was close to the equator.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So what was it like when you got back home?
Chaos. Couldn't believe nothing.
A lot of catching up to do?
Period of
A lot
adjustment.
of catching up to do,
No,
adjusting?
there's no catching up.
You don't think so?
Couldn't, no.
Oh, you had to have a period of adjustment.
Oh, that come
Get
gradually.
used to your
That
family
come
again.
gradually, and I didn't know if I was coming or going, yeah. I know it was.
You gotta get a job so you could have money to spend. Did they-
Dances to attend.
Yeah.
I had land waiting for me.
You had to go to Appleton.
Yeah, I went that way, yeah. Oh, that was,
I wasn't waiting because I was just a kid. I was just a kid.
So I mean, what when you got back to Shelby, what was your first move? What were you thinking? What was your next
oh,
move?
friends called me up. I didn't even get to spend first night at home. Somebody called, wanted to go to a dance in Columbus. Gee, I never had whiskey in my life. Boy, they out the intermission, they pulled out the whiskey. Oh,
So there was a period of celebration that you were home.
well,
The locals recognized you,
them guys, they celebrated every night at every.
but the locals recognized you
Oh,
for
yeah.
what you did.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
But there were a lot of them.
Well, that's what I'm saying. But I'm sure there was a lot of celebrations, a lot
Oh,
of
yeah.
gatherings, and
Who was that? Johnny's owner?
Yeah.
Who called you?
so that probably took up a lot of your time. The various celebrations and
Yeah.
dances and that, and then so how long after that did you start thinking about job or
Well, I had a farm.
yeah?
Rented.
But did you go?
I had one waiting on me.
Okay, so
Yeah.
you pretty much went right into
Yeah.
farming.
Yeah, I did.
And how old were you when you came back to Shelby?
I don't know.
24, 23?
Probably. In there, thereabouts.
I was 23,
23.
22, 23.
So imagine that.
I was 24 when I got married.
You saw a world war, and you're still not 24.
Yeah.
Think about that.
But on the other hand, he lost that part of his life.
Yeah.
While the 4F guys in Shelby, this is kind of the gripe through the years, but not now anymore.
Mm-hmm.
They could farm, buy land, find a girlfriend, start their families, and these soldiers couldn't.
Was there any kind of government assistance for soldiers when they came back to start?
Well, he went to a veteran school,
Yeah, I went to veteran school to learn how to farm.
Okay.
and they just gave
They
him a
thank you for that.
minimal
That's
check.
just the
I don't
way-
remember
But they
what
didn't.
it
But
was.
they didn't give you maybe some capital
Oh,
to
yeah.
go
Well, no, not
buy
lump
land
sum.
or
Oh,
No.
Okay. they just gave
They,
you.
they did help. They did
monthly
help
thing.
those that needed a home.
Yeah.
They got that. But I didn't. I went to the school deal.
Did you live with your family again? Your parents?
Yeah, he did. He lived with Grandma and Grandpa.
What?
Did you live with your family?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Were they understanding of you and what you had gone through?
What'd you say?
Were they understanding of you? They didn't put you on no pedestal by any means.
No.
You pretty much went right back to work.
Back to
Yeah.
life.
How was it taking orders from your dad after you got back?
Ouchies.
How was it taking orders from your dad?
Well, it was better than the sergeants.
So how long, here's the question, how long from when you got home till you met Grandma?
But it wasn't the next day.
I don't know how long it was. You should know that.
23, 20. Oh, it was probably
When did you
a
come?
year or less. It didn't take long.
Didn't take long.
Well, see, I went to different dances all around.
You were looking.
Yeah.
You
that
were
was the
looking. You
thing.
were out on the prowl.
Yeah.
Let the sheep
So were his cousins and all his friends. They were on the prowl.
Well, I mean,
Oh,
you were
yeah,
overseas for 2
He
years.
says he didn't know what a white girl looked like. They're so long, so it really, I'm not honored because it didn't make any difference. I was white. That was it.
You don't believe everything you hear.
Well, you told me that, Mark.
I did.
Yes. And I don't suppose there were any white girls. Maybe a nurse or two.
All right,
Women
in
were
I
Australia.
don't want to talk about that.
Yeah, let's not talk about it.
A friend of mine, when I was overseas, right in the boot, what you call boot training, he was still home yet. And him and his girlfriend, I don't know if there's anybody with him or not, in Columbus, was in a train accident. Car. Train. He thought at first they thought that they was fighting to save his life. Then they was fighting to save his leg, both legs. They saved one leg, and they fit him up with a leg, and hell, he could dance and do everything with it. And I tell you, today he wishes he'd have went to the army. It was an experience.
Yeah.
Do you know of any people that stayed in San Francisco when they came back? They just decided they were going to stay there. San Francisco.
What did he say?
Anybody staying? No, they pretty much went home. The soldiers,
And you got
they didn't stay anywhere else. They
Some of
pretty
them
much
had
went home.
opportunities, but they come
Did you
home.
hear
Yeah.
about, like in Los Angeles, when soldiers would come back from the Pacific, they would land in Los Angeles. You know, and they were from the Midwest, they were from wherever, but they stayed and started a life, you know, 'cause
It was different then.
yeah.
Kids, everybody went home. You know, most of them.
So it's more of a
You know,
Vietnam
it's just
thing.
home.
Yeah,
You're-
yes, I think.
What you're
Yeah.
saying was in movies. That's the way it was in the movies.
And it's more so now as time goes on. Then it was home.
Home.
You went home. You did what your mother and father said you should do. That's the way it was.
Well,
Way
I
it
mean,
should be.
Boy, that's right.
It's
That's right.
still amazing that you were still 23 years old. So yes, you're
Yeah, he
still
was still a kid.
you're still
Yeah,
kind of
you're
a
still
kid under your parents.
Yeah,
So yeah, yeah.
but in those days you were
But the Japs didn't care.
No, nor did the.
under your parents' rule for
When-
a long time.
When you were in New Guinea, did you get any intel on what was happening on the European front?
Very, very, very little.
Okay.
Very little. No.
Did you know?
When I was on New Guinea, I rode home. And I asked my parents to subscribe to the Omaha World Herald for me. And I got the World Herald. Why, how did I know what the football team did?
Of course.
So I had to know how the football.
So you would
And-
write a letter, and you would get one back.
Oh, yeah.
How long would that take?
Oh, a couple, 3 weeks.
3 weeks.
Oh, well.
So your parents would write it, and it would take right around 3 weeks for it to get to you.
Not that it took a week to get home. You mean before I got an answer?
Yeah.
Yeah, it took about 3 weeks.
Okay.
So you had to know how the Brooklyn Dodgers were doing and the Packers.
Well, could your parents write about Germany
Well,
in
no,
that
Mark
war?
got.
Yeah, they didn't know anymore
World
what
Herald
was in the
sent to
paper.
him in New
Oh.
Guinea.
If it was in the paper, it was legal.
It was in a care package.
No, he had
He got
he
it.
subscribed to the Omaha World Herald, didn't you, Mark?
Yeah, he
Parents.
did.
Yeah,
His
his
parents
parents.
did. I was surprised.
So
I just
how
heard
long?
that
How
just
many
recently.
days old when you receive a newspaper over in New Guinea?
Oh,
how
I
many
don't
days
know.
old?
I don't know. It wasn't too long. Week maybe.
Yeah. So you're a week behind in Husker games.
Yeah.
Brooklyn Dodgers.
I
No,
remember.
he likes the Cubs.
I remember
Besides the
a fellow
Royals.
playing football for Nebraska. I played against him in high school.
Yeah.
He didn't get into the army because he was too tall. I think he was 6 foot.
Who was that?
Bert Gisler, 4 or 5, 6 feet 4 or 5 inches tall. That was
wow.
too tall. He couldn't pass, and so he made the football team down there. And he was captain. And
Wow.
do you know why they picked him to be the captain? Because all the others ahead of him got drafted, and he was the only one with any experience from the year before. He played 2 minutes in a game a year before.
Oh wow.
That's all. That's the way it was. They
It's
scraped
cross-
the bottom back here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
But like I was telling that guy with the leg, he lost his leg. He wishes he. Oh, the parents did a lot to try to keep their sons out of going to war, out of the service. They did a lot.
Well,
Few-
tell about that. Buchholz ran somebody out of the store with
Oh,
a butcher knife.
Well, I forgot all about that when Japan attacked Pearl Harbor. There were, they controlled everything over there, from Japan clear almost practically down to Australia. That included New Guinea. New Guinea wasn't too far, and they collected all of that. Boy, and no, don't you?
Somebody, did Buchholz run somebody?
yeah,
They said
okay.
something about Germans, I
Okay.
think.
And then I was home. I was wondering what was going on. They had the Death March. You've heard about the Death March. There were 2 from Shelby that was in that Death March. One of them made it through, and one didn't. Yeah. One was just a year ahead of me in high school,
Wow.
Well, they
and he
said,
didn't make it through.
well, now the doctor told Buchholz that took how many years?
Well,
of his
that
life?
was what they said. Yeah.
Well, it's gonna take something
Because
off
that
your
took
life.
some years off of his life.
Yeah.
That was terrible. If they got out of line they didn't get no water, and they got over there in a puddle, they wanted to drink water, they chopped and shoot them right there. Yeah.
But why didn't the United States know that the Japs were taking over in the Pacific like they were?
They didn't.
Why didn't, they should have,
I don't know how they could have.
or they didn't wanna do nothing about it.
Until we were attacked.
Uh-huh.
So
until
our
they-
hand- our
This
hand
is
was-
all secret, Edith. They did everything in Japan. Then they come over, they had this all planned out.
Well, I
On
know.
a Sunday morning when everybody was, half the people were in bed yet. Yeah, I mean, gee whiz, and they was all those airplanes lined up, boy,
So they weren't even watching the Pacific back then.
no, not really. And well, they wiped Pearl Harbor, practically everything
Yeah,
was on
I know.
that.
Wiped it
That
out.
ship, and we had 6 months to take that little island of
Iwo Jima?
no,
Guadalcanal.
Guadalcanal. Yeah, Guadalcanal. Then that saved Australia. Oh, them Japs, yeah.
Well, it's over.
What about the honor flight you went on, Dad, after,
Yeah.
what they did for the World War II vets?
Honor
The
flight.
honor flight,
about
that you went to
Honor flight.
Washington DC?
Just say something about it.
No, I don't think so.
He wasn't too, well, he was in the, I don't know.
No, that didn't impress me.
No, it didn't.
I'd see, no, that didn't.
But it was an honor.
It was an honor that they
When
flew you all
I
there.
was in Tinker Air Force Base, down at Tinker Field in Oklahoma City, I went to places down there were just like big,
Of course, this was a World War II memorial
yeah.
to
Well,
the
I know it was.
World War II soldiers.
Yeah.
But he don't get
What do you
press.
get out of watching John F. Kennedy's grave? got the perpetual light there.
Well, you got to see it.
Oh, big deal. You think anybody's gonna see my grave?
You gotta die first.
Well, that's where the Tomb of the Unknown Soldier
Yeah,
is, right?
yeah, he saw that. Of
What?
course, we had seen that before.
Yeah.
The unknown soldier.
Uh-huh,
Yeah.
yeah, he saw
I
that.
told him change the guard.
Yeah,
Yeah, well.
Well, this
you
World
wa-
War II
There's no
thing-
very different than overseas when you stood guard. When it was dead soldiers there, here overseas, you looked out for the Japs. So what's the difference? Only overseas our gun was loaded. Over here, it was, they weren't loaded.
Very good. We
you did a good job. I'm proud of you. Second time.
Oh, there's a lot I didn't say, and if you bring up different things,
Yeah, it comes to you.
yeah.
Well, we'll get a beer and you might think of a lot more.
What?
We'll have a beer and you can think of a lot more.
Well,
Are you thirsty, Grandpa? Are you thirsty?
no, I'm Mark.
You want something to drink, Grandpa?
You know, that JFK lot is pretty underwhelming.
Huh?
The JFK flame where he's buried, that is pretty underwhelming.
Did you see it?
Yeah, I've seen it. It's just kind of
Yeah, it's just,
there. It's
Is
funny
there
he says
honor?
it that way.
There's
you
a
know?
lot that made those airplanes fly. You got on the wings, you got ailerons, then you got trim tabs on top of besides those ailerons. If you wanted to slow down or turn a little bit, but you didn't want a big slow down, you didn't use your ailerons, you used those trim tabs, and they was about this long, about this wide, and that little bit would control your airplane. I was, did I tell you about when I got lost over the Pacific?
no.
We got lost over the Pacific. I was in an airplane. And my job, they put a hood over the front of the, you don't call it windshield, what do you call it? Over the plane. The pilot was learning I forget these terms now. He learned to fly an airplane, instrument, fly by instruments alone.
Oh, okay.
You kept that over there, and when we flew into a storm, and my job, I was in the back of the plane, in the middle, and I was to watch the skies for other airplanes so they wouldn't hit us. I was flying this plane.
Wow.
And that was my job. And by golly, we run into a storm. Oh, that airplane bounced, that bird bounced all over. And the pilot got lost. He got lost
Over the Pacific.
in the Pacific. I tell you, I saw more water below me that time than I ever saw corn in Nebraska.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I did. That was all. Well, anyway, he got lost. And we were.
That must have scared you.
We thought we was done.
Yeah.
And all at once he got on track. He found his way. We landed. And as soon as we landed, and I got airsick. Oh, I got, just like those guys got seasick, I got airsick. And as soon as we landed, boy, I was cured just that quick. Yeah. Well, anyway, we landed, and I saw a guy running to run, and I knew him. I hollered, hey, where are you going? I wanted to get in on the action, too. I wanted to see, boy, he stopped and looked at it. My God, he says, we're going up to look for you.
So how long have you guys lost?
Oh, a couple hours.
A couple hours?
Oh, gee, man.
Well, that's scary.
I thought that was the end.
Yeah.
I really did.
So the front of the window, the plane was always covered during that whole time?
No, I don't think so.
They could
No,
replace
but
it
we
at that
were
point.
lost.
It didn't
no, but
matter
the
then.
windshield.
That was the training.
No, I don't think it was.
Yeah.
Just at the beginning. And then once they were lost, I could get that, rip
That thing out of there.
Yeah.
Well, in the middle of the
Forgot about
Pacific
that.
Ocean, phew.
Gee, that's scary. All that water and somebody doesn't even swim. He doesn't know how to swim. That should be a qualification of
Yeah,
every
you
soldier.
would think.
They should know how to swim.
being over water so much.
Yeah. Of course, I suppose the sailors have to, I don't know. I would think they would.
Anything else?
No. I think we'll go through his pictures here in a couple of weeks.
Yeah.
Maybe get some more.
That's great. Thank you so much.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah, that's good.
These are memories that we'll never forget.
Well, there's a lot that I
Well,
can't
you
think
did
of
the
now.
high spots.
Yeah.
You did good.
Yeah. I mean,
He
basically.
always surprises me. He gave a good speech.
Oh, and I forgot to tell you, when I was going overseas, I told you about the zigzagging and of the flashlight and all that. But when we crossed the on the north of the equator, you flush the stool, the water'd go the way you see it.
Yeah.
When we crossed that equator, it went the opposite direction.
So it is true.
Mm-hmm.
It is very true.
Yes, and the same way with those whirlwinds we saw,
Yeah.
we crossed the equator and those whirlwinds went the opposite direction.
And Sherry said that's true. She was in New Zealand, and she says that is true,
Wow.
that the stool flushes the other way.
Oh, there's people won't believe it.
Now, I know they won't believe it,
You
but
always think
she said-
you always think it's something you just see on cartoons.
I don't
Yeah.
really know what way that goes anyway, so.
I don't
I'd
either.
have to.
Pay attention.
I'd have to look.
You'll have to notice.
I just have to watch
Just,
it
you
really
think,
good.
just think
No, I
on the
think we got
equator,
it.
it goes the other
No, we
way.
Yeah,
Stateside.
how do they know up there?
Stateside
Exactly.
basic training.
Why are you watching the toilet so much is what
His
I
time,
don't
I think
Yeah.
a lot of his
Yeah.
time in Guinea
It's
might come out in the
Reagan,
pictures.
What would that have to do with
Oh, that
what?
way?
That way the Earth is on an axis?
Some sort of magnetic.
You don't know your
Magnetic
The
thing?
poles.
And it goes straight down right on the
Splash in your
equator.
face.
Oh,
It doesn't swirl, it just goes straight down.
Well, New Guinea or
Seriously, when
Tinkerfield.
it's right, when you're right
I
on the
like
equator, it
Tinkerfield.
doesn't
Yeah.
swirl.
Goodness.
It's
Oh,
That's
Mark,
it.
they had,
Now, how
you
do you
think
know
this
that?
is hot, it
Right.
was hot there.
Really?
straight down. What was the first car you owned?
What?
First car you owned, and how much did you pay for it?
First car home, it was $2,000 is what it cost, brand new Chevy.
What year?
I got it, I don't know, 40.
Well, let me see. Cindy was probably 2 years old. So it would have been 59.
You didn't have a car till 59?
Well, he had what was that car that you and Morris drove?
Oh, I don't know, Pontiac,
Yeah, he didn't even own the car. He
Pontiac.
just used that car. They just used the car.
Yeah.
That's the way it was then those days. You
Shared
didn't have
cars
a
between the
car.
family.
So you had 2 kids before you bought a car.
Yeah, before we bought one. But he had,
You had a tractor probably before you had a car.
Yeah, I did.
Yeah.
That's what I used the money for, when I worked at, off in Omaha, at the bomber plant.
So
You need a tractor is more important than a car, probably.
Yeah, well, right.
For your
but we
livelihood.
had a car. Or did you take that old gray car? Was that yours then after we were?
I
I
don't
think so.
remember.
I think that was it. You acquired that car.
So-
I don't remember.
like a 55 Chevy for $2,000.
What?
A 55 Chevy for $2,000.
I don't remember.
It was black,
It was brand new.
had a slanting back.
The funny deal, when I was in Strasbourg one day, and I asked all over for cars, you could find no car, no place. And I just, for the heck of it, went to the garage there. There was by golly, he had one, he sold it to me. Complete stranger. Usually they give it to they sell it to their buddies or their friends, their customers, you know. And I
See,
never
cars
saw
were
him.
scarce.
That's why I
They
asked.
weren't. They didn't make them.
Yeah.
That's why I asked.
Sugar was scarce.